Podcast production.
This week's episode of the Seoul Podcast is brought to you by Expat Living, only in the Korea Herald, and also Coreana Cosmetics. Hitler may not have had the East and the West, but Nazis are styling!
This is the Seoul Podcast, your weekly guide to stuff. This week we have, from Socius and Daejeon, Kimberly Hogg, and from BusanMike, Mike Moriarty, with topics such as: is there life outside Seoul? Is the Seoul cough prevalent throughout Korea? Best places to go in Busan. Immigration fiascos abroad and abroad. Ajashi playgrounds. And this week's news, unreliable rumors, and shameless self-aggrandizing. I'm King Daejeon, reminding you that, oh, forget it, this hangover won't quit. And here are your hosts, Jennifer Young and Joe McPherson.
Hello and welcome to the Seoul Podcast. I'm Joe.
This is Jennifer.
And our guest panelists today are from Socius and Daejeon, Kimberly Hogg.
Hello.
And from the blog BusanMike, Mike Moriarty.
Hello.
All right. We're all here today. Today's show, we mostly been talking about, this is called the Seoul Podcast, but a little unknown secret is none of us actually live in Seoul proper.
I know.
We're all suburbanites over here. I live in the suburbs of Anyang, and Jennifer's way down over in Bundong.
Way down, yeah. Well, it's only way down because I'm like at the south end. Like if you're at Daejeon, you're only 20 minutes away from Itaewon.
Yeah.
So you're actually closer than if you live in North Seoul. And come on, let's face it, Itaewon's the only part of Seoul that really counts.
Oh.
Sorry, I just thought I'd, throw out the little controversy right at the beginning.
Love the controversy at the beginning. Jennifer, you can always do that. I can always count on you for that. So, one little controversy. There was a Korea Times article this week talking about their loosening requirements for English teachers to teach in rural areas or just anywhere outside of Seoul. I guess because English teachers, for some reason, are always going to Seoul. So I'm just wanting to do this program about why don't we try anything but Seoul?
Yeah, I loved living in Cheonju. Granted, now that I'm this close to Seoul, I don't know if I'd go back. But
yeah.
That's just because I'm, you get used to the Western stuff.
Yeah. So what would you say, I'll just toss this out to anyone in the panel. What would you say to the people who say there is no life outside Seoul?
That they obviously live in Seoul.
I would agree with that.
I think that Busan is probably, being the second city, there's probably less difference between Seoul and Busan, but there's certainly quite a lot of things happening down here. It just isn't on the scale of Seoul, of course.
I think that's a fair analysis, actually. Daejeon suffers from the same kind of complex. We've got most of the stuff that exists in Seoul, except on a much, much smaller scale.
Well, I've gone on the Socius website, and it seems there's lots of stuff going on the website, and this is over in Daejeon.
Well, we've got a really good art scene, even though it is quite small. We've got a fair amount going on for sports and activities. One of the nice things about Daejeon, too, is that if there is something in one of the larger metropolises that you'd like to get to, it's really convenient because we are so central. So, I don't know. For me, there's not a whole lot of disadvantage to living here. It's really easy to go up to Seoul. It's only an hour on the KTX, and then I can be back the same night and home in my bed, and that's okay.
So I would guess you do prefer living outside Seoul.
I like it a lot in that it's really laid back here. There's a lot of green space. a lot of parks. The city's relatively flat, and so getting around is not that hard. Yeah, like I said, there's just not the hustle and bustle and everyday kind of craziness that you get when you're in Seoul.
Well, what would your average weekend be like?
My average weekend? Probably poking away at Socius. Taking my dog for a walk, just hanging out with friends. I don't think anybody does anything different when they live in Seoul either. I mean, you can live in a big city, but still your weekend can be spent just chatting with your friends at either a local drinking establishment or in your house or at a park or something. And so really the advantages to living in Seoul are just proximity to these other aspects, the theater and the musicals and art shows, or big sports games and things like that. Whereas we don't have to put up with the traffic and the hectic lifestyle and things like that when you're outside of the city. So
that is true, and I would admit that I do fairly live in proximity to the theater and the sports and the arts, and I've not taken advantage of any of that. For one thing, the theater is so astronomically priced.
Yeah, I was going to go see something, and it was like 600,000 won, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to see it that bad.
600,000 won?
Because all of the cheap seats were taken already. They were already sold out. But the cheap seats, I'm using the term loosely, I think it started at like 100-something.
Oh
for
my.
the, behind the pillar and, whatever. So all that was left was like front and center, the like VIP type seats.
What is this? Once or something?
Well, I have no. It was like 2 years ago. I have no idea what it was anymore.
Oh, okay.
But I would also add in that I think it's easier to make friends in the like sort of outer areas, because in Seoul, like everybody, you just go hang out in Itaewon and drink or whatever. Yeah. And if that's not really your thing, then there's so many foreigners that you wouldn't just stop somebody and talk to them on the street. But in Cheonju, if you saw another foreigner, when I lived there, and, things might have changed. But, like, seriously, you would, like, it was like, that scene in a movie at the beach where the couple sees each other and they're, like, running and hug and, when, like, you would just run up and introduce yourself. And, like, we would bring people home. Like, we'd just see people on the street and be like, come on over.
In Daejeon, we don't always acknowledge each other, but for the most part, if you don't acknowledge somebody, it's just like, well, what's wrong with that person? What, why are they saying hi or something? Because it is pretty small.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is me too, because if I see another foreigner, I'm the one that tends to try to ignore them, because I get so used to living in my bubble of anonymity on the subway that I really just, I'm used to not talking to anyone, so I kind of just don't want to talk to anyone.
Well, and up here, like, between my house and school, I might see 10 foreigners a day, so it's not a big deal, but in Cheonju, if I wasn't going to the foreigner bar, then I might see a foreigner like once every month, because I lived in an area that was, I lived by the train station. It was sort of out of the way of Hagwons and stuff.
Yeah, I would see that. And I'm trying to think of what are the things that would be different. I mean, Kim, you said Daejeon is sort of smaller, so I'm pretty sure there's not much of a Hongdae.
Well, there's got to be a ton of universities there anyway.
Well, there's a few districts. One of them is between Chungnam University and Keist, and it's called Kungdong. And there's a lot of cheap eats, and there's actually a couple of really good international restaurants stuck in there as well. Mm-hmm. You'll have to come down and check those out.
That sounds cool. Yeah, that would be the other thing. So my point about Hongdae is like every time I've gone to Hongdae, I've not been too impressed with it.
I feel like I'm about 15 years too old for Hongdae.
That's true.
I don't think they'd even let me in the door anywhere.
Yeah.
Get out, Ajima. Oh.
That's part of my feeling too. I just felt really just like, it's kind of, I don't know. I feel like, yeah, that was me when I was 21, 19. It's like, right now it just seems kind of sleazy. Just don't really want to do that anymore. I mean, I would say what would be the other advantage would be like being near international stuff, but like, you know, you get the international stuff outside of Seoul too. In fact, maybe even more so. I'm pretty sure in Busan there's quite a lot of international stuff down there.
The big film festival down there.
We have the Busan International Film Festival down here, and we have the kind of firework festival every year, and I guess that the New Year's Sunrise Festival is becoming bigger and bigger down here as well. Go down to the beach and watch the sunrise first day of the new year.
Because Busan's facing east.
Yes, indeed it is. So you can certainly watch the sunrise. Otherwise, if it was facing west, then you couldn't. But I guess that you can't really do that so much up in Seoul. I guess it's up to the top of a mountain.
Yeah, it's always the top of the mountain.
Top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And
let's face it, on New Year's morning, it'd be more fun to go to the beach than up a mountain.
It's still very cold on the beach. Still very cold on the beach.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't swap it for the top of a mountain for anything, I'm afraid. The beach is enough.
Yeah, in Seoul, we go up to the top of the mountain to watch the sun rise over the smog.
Yeah.
Fun.
I would say that's another advantage of living outside of Seoul, or especially going to a smaller town or city in Korea, is the air quality, because Seoul is pretty nasty.
It can be, yeah. I lived in one of the Seoul neighborhoods, and it was 3 months, and I was like, get me out of here. I was so glad to leave. Then I came out to Anyang, and I saw green mountains. It's so nice, and
hey, the air is clear. It's not yellowy brown.
Yeah.
I would have to agree that's something that I really enjoy about living in Daejeon. I mean, every time I come up to Seoul, and this is a little graphic, but I'm sneezing black for 2 days by the time I get back, and that just can't be healthy.
Yeah.
I've kind of gotten used to it.
Yeah, my friends and I sort of toss around that every now and then is how long can you stay in the Seoul area before you sort of permanently damage your lungs.
I got the Seoul cough. I'm curious about that. Does the Seoul cough exist out there on Daejeon or in Busan? Do you get that cough when you first? Do people you see first get that cough when they first move out there? Is it a whole Korea thing, or is it really just a Seoul thing?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, it's like when it's like it's always like I know. It's always like first month or two, someone has moved, and then they have this uncontrollable coughing that lasts for 3 weeks.
I haven't noticed it here. People tend to get sick. I mean, they get the colds and whatever, but it's not like specifically a coughing thing. I think it's just an immunity adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, working with kids will do that to you too.
Right.
But it won't give you like a nasty hacking cough like living in Seoul will.
It seems like, everyone I've known, every newbie has had this Seoul cough. I had it my first month. I know exactly when I got it too, is when I went to climb a mountain the first time, and that's when I first had to really breathe hard, really inhale it. And then I was just begging to have my lungs back for the next 3 weeks. I just could not breathe without just hacking stuff up. It was horrible.
Lovely.
It was like, yeah.
Yeah, some of my friends never get over it. Like, they'll be well for a couple of weeks, but like just throughout the year, they'll be well for a couple of weeks, and then they'll have some kind of lung thing for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it used to happen to me whenever and some type of equinox season came around. And I would get it twice a year, but now I've adjusted enough I don't get it anymore.
Well, and you live in the burbs.
But still, I was getting it in the burbs because, Ansan and Anyang still sort of they're not pollution free. I mean, the mountains sort of block the hardcore stuff, but it's still pretty, you still get the yellow clouds on days.
Yeah, for us that seems to be more related to yellow dust season and high pollen season, which is right around now.
We don't really get a high... Have you noticed, Jennifer, a high pollen season?
I do.
Oh, really? I guess you gotta have trees to have high pollen season.
Yeah, there's a lot of trees in Bunong. I noticed it a lot more in Cheonju, though, because their cars would actually get covered with yellow pollen, but here. I don't notice it quite as much.
Yeah, I always notice in March it's yellow snow. But that's really just the yellow dust.
Yellow dust.
I always say it's yellow snow day.
Yeah, Daejeon is ringed by mountains, and so we get a lot of pollen in the air, and then, unfortunately, if the wind's blowing the wrong direction, and we do have a couple of smog days, until we get that northerly wind, it doesn't really clear out, but it sounds like it's a little bit worse in Seoul.
It's a little bit, and still, I still like hanging out here. But there's just some reasons I like. I really want to do at least 1 year or 2 years outside. I really want to go rural sometime. I went out this past weekend. Went out to the country, did the charcoal sauna experience. Oh, that was really nice. Really like going up there. It's near Icheon in a little town called Yeoju.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't know it. I don't know where to find it on a map. I just remember, I just looked at the signs. The whole area is where King Daejeon is buried. And if you don't, yeah, King Daejeon announces our podcast.
Damn straight.
The official king of the Seoul podcast.
Yes. That was a pretty cool experience. Was going out to the charcoal sauna. I'm actually writing that up for that. It was such a cool experience that I totally scrapped my next article for Seoul magazine. I just wrote about that instead.
Huh.
But anyway.
Did you go to the hot springs while you were there?
No, it was not really a hot spring. Okay, I explain this.
Icheon is famous for their hot springs.
Well, this was a field trip for the charcoals.
Oh, okay.
I went with a bunch of healing massage therapist practitioners, which was one of those only in Asia types of experiences. If you're outside of California, that like the entire bus ride there, they're all talking about how each one has their own special way of taking bad chi out of each one's body. And they're actually showing with their hands how they would pull the chi out of people's bodies and move it and manipulate it, and talking about all the new agey stuff that I don't, I just smile and be polite.
Did you come home smelling like patchouli?
No, I didn't really do that. But the place itself is really cool. They make their own charcoal there out of pine wood. And after they take the charcoal out of the furnaces, they're recycled as saunas. So the residual heat from the charcoal is used to make the saunas, and the temperature is of many saunas, and the temperatures are based on how long it's been since the charcoal's been taken out. And that was cool. But the best part is the whole charcoal sauna thing is that they use the charcoal to cook pork with. So you just sit there,
and your interest comes out.
There's my interest.
Indeed.
That's the whole reason I went to that whole thing. I don't want to go for that. I don't want to sit in a hot. I'm from Alabama. I don't need to sit in a hot room.
But a new way
I
to
don't
cook
need that anymore. Yeah, I was going. Well, shoot, it was someone. I would tell you this. I think it was the best samgyeopsal I've ever had in Korea. It was the best. It was cooked over
road trip.
It's definite road trip. I'm promoting that as a road trip in the next article. That's going to be great. I would like to ask, what is your favorite place to go to?
In my city?
Yes. What would you recommend?
Takes a minute for thinking.
Well, it's okay.
What?
What things that you like to do? Walk your dog. Where would you go to walk your dog?
I just go out by the river. The rivers here all have these parks beside them. Some of them are wide enough to host soccer fields, football pitches, and
are they crowded?
They're not crowded. No, they're fairly well populated during prime times of the day. But for the most part, they're not. Everybody's out with their dogs or on their bikes or with their kids and families, and it's. There's probably 25 kilometers worth of these parks in the city, so it's a pretty significant size, and it's a really comfortable place. I wish there were more trees, but they're really well used as sports facilities within the city and for family gatherings and club gatherings and everything else, so that's kind of cool.
That sounds great. to contrast that with Seoul, one of my friends does a Ultimate Frisbee League in Seoul.
Oh, I play Ultimate here.
You do?
Or used to.
I've been meaning to, but I'm too lazy to get out on a Sunday. So he was talking about how this past weekend that they have these. They actually play professionally. They actually go to tournaments in different countries for this stuff. So they're pretty hardcore Ultimate people.
Yeah, they're down here probably once a month to play because we've actually got grass.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, you actually might have room because he was talking about this weekend that they just really couldn't play because it was just so crowded and people would be walking in, flying kites in the end zone, and kids would steal the orange cones, and while the parents, it's like okay, the kids are stealing the orange cones while the parents are watching.
Yeah.
Won't do anything about it.
Encouraging them.
So my friend who is very fluent in Korean, so much so that he actually auditioned. He was going to be on one of those beauty chatterbox shows for men. So his Korean's pretty good. He goes up and explains to the parents, could you please, we're playing this, it could be dangerous for your child. Could you please be careful? And the parent's response was, parent looks at the child and goes, go over there, speak English to him, speak English, practice your English.
Run on to the field, honey, it's free English practice.
I know, that's what they thought it was.
I don't want to know the English they're going to learn if they do that.
Yeah.
Oh, Mike, what would you say is one of the best places to go to in Busan?
I think a couple of places come to mind. There's the Hyundai area of Busan, which is where one of the biggest beaches is, certainly the most popular beach. So even during the winter, there's lots happening on the beachfront, but during the summer, it's you've probably seen it on Korean television. It's just heaving with people down there. But if you like that kind of thing, it's very good. And then in the center of there's no sarcasm intended there. In the center of Busan, there's one of my favorite areas is the Nampadong area, which has a couple of big movie theaters and an independent theater around the corner. Lots of shopping and lots of restaurants, eateries. So it's quite a good place just to go at the weekend and do a little bit of everything, really.
And that's been my impression of Busan. That it seems to be the place to go to for serious film.
Well, I think even though they have the film festival for 2 or 3 weeks every year, I think that there's a more general film theme going on throughout the year, really, and people do seem to congregate really towards the Nampadong area for film. When they have the film festival, they've certainly this year they did an outdoor screening in the Hyundai area, but most of the actual theatres, the big theatres that people go to, are either in Nampadong. There's a couple outside that area in other areas, but I think it is where people congregate, yes, certainly for film.
I've heard like near Hyundai. Now, I want to know if this place exists still. I heard this. You might not have heard. I'm not sure if you even know about this. There's supposed to be some Galbi restaurant that specializes in goat.
I have not knowingly eaten there.
Maybe it doesn't exist anymore. I don't know.
Goat is not bad.
What?
It's okay.
I've had goat.
I mean, come on, we're from the South. We eat all kinds of weird animals.
I don't know that that's that weird. I mean, that'd be probably pretty similar to sheep, would it not?
It tastes like lamb. Yeah.
Not so bad.
No.
It's just kind of funny when you see like a barbecue sign and it says, "We've got goat." Like, yeehaw!
Okay, you're more in the country than I am from. I've never seen that. We never had enough of a pork shortage to get goat.
I guess that's the southern equivalent to live octopus.
Yeah,
Maybe that is.
I think they were just that specific place was just trying to show that they had wide variety of meat choices.
Hold on, put my thoughts together. Oh yeah, Mike, Now, one thing I've always enjoyed reading your blog is you've always had this issues. You came over to Korea to marry your wife, who is Korean.
That's right.
And you were planning on just staying here for 6 months, weren't you?
Indeed I was, yes.
What happened?
How long have you been here now?
1.5 years now.
Okay.
What happened was that we applied for a spousal visa to return to the UK, and the British Embassy said no. And we weren't allowed, well, my wife wasn't allowed to go back, so effectively it's a question of my staying here or us having separate until the problem can be resolved, which doesn't seem very viable, really. So we have gone through an appeals process and fought basically a legal action against them, which was resolved finally about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we are now free to return finally, so we actually will be going back to the UK next month.
Yay!
I'm sorry, could I clarify? Did you literally come here for the wedding ceremony? Is that what you mean?
More or less. I mean, I think that...
Oh, man.
Well, I think people who are familiar with Korean families will realize that the wedding ceremony is perhaps like the West, is not arranged very quickly, and certainly we had Korean parents just working through the process of inviting people and things like this, and so we needed to be here and kind of put our oar in as much as possible with that. And so the ceremony was about 3 months into my stay here, and then we were going to have the honeymoon and a little bit of time afterwards, but it all kind of spiraled out of control, really, through to these unforeseen circumstances.
When your government basically exiled you.
Yeah, I did feel pretty strongly about that. It was very curious, and I mean, clearly there's a lot wrong with the system, and in fact, even though I have written about it, and it's a problem with the British Embassy, which most people are perhaps at this point fortunate enough not to be British, the fact is that I've found, because people have emailed me in the course of my blogging about this, I found that there are lots of people, Americans particularly, who have exactly the same kind of problems with their own government. And you know, I think it's one thing that people don't quite appreciate, that they come out and they think all their papers are in order, and they think that there's no reason why they can't go back, and everything should be fairly straightforward. And you never really know, I think, when you're dealing with your government overseas. It's one of the least happy experiences of my time in Korea, actually dealing with my own government, ironically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
My coworker, her husband, she met him in the States, and she's American, and they literally came to Korea for the wedding ceremony, and then he was supposed to return back to the States to work. And when they went to go change his status on his visa, he could not leave Korea. Like, they wouldn't let him back in the States. And it took months to get it sorted out so he could go back. So he lost his job, and they had bought a house and ended up selling the house because it was like, 6 mortgage payments or whatever, and they weren't able to be living in the house, so they were paying rent here and a mortgage payment there, and yeah, it was all a big mess.
Oh, that's awful. What was? I mean, did they give a good reason for why they wouldn't let your wife back in?
Well, they didn't give a good reason, but they did give a reason.
Okay, a reason.
Well, this is going to sound pretty unbelievable, I suppose, but it was actually the fact that I was meant to be selling my house before I came here, because I wanted to go back to the UK and basically live somewhere else. So I had this property sale planned, it fell through, and so I was stuck with the house while I was now the embassy found out that I was still planning to sell the house, and they said that this was proof, quote unquote, that I didn't actually intend to return to the UK to permanently reside. therefore, it was within their rights to tell me that I was free to live my life in Korea.
Oh, wow.
Is what happened.
So it was totally about you. It wasn't really about your wife.
It really wasn't, and it was about my circumstances much more than my wife's circumstances, which is perhaps one of the reasons why I took it quite personally. As one of the reasons why it was quite shocking, because I didn't really think that my government had any say on what my particular living, requirements were in the UK, what I wanted to do in the UK, but apparently they did. I mean, one thing about embassies, and I don't think this is particularly limited to the British Embassy, is that within the law you are innocent until proven guilty, but quite often what people like in the embassies in various countries, and certainly tax authorities in various countries tend to do, is treat you as guilty until you can prove yourself innocent. Mm-hmm. So the situation was that they argued that on the balance of probabilities that they felt that I wasn't going to go back to the UK, which of course begged a lot of questions really about why I was applying for a residency visa.
Just to see if she could get it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the cost of this was about just over £500, which I guess is just over $1,000 US, and obviously a short-term visa was a lot cheaper than that, probably half or one-third of the price. So clearly I'm just completely off my head, and I just wanted to spend as much as possible just for some bizarre principle that even I don't understand to this day. So I really don't know why it came about, but I'm afraid that I think we live in a world where people are trying to cut down on immigration. You know, it's a constant political topic, isn't it? And so I think I just fell foul of the particular mood the British government was in at the time, which ironically it seems to have thought perhaps it wasn't such a good idea after all. So now they are being a bit more lenient with people again, I hear. But it goes through phases, and unfortunately this is the experience you can have. So I'm afraid I can't give any advice on it apart from, double and triple checking for people in this kind of situation, that everything is don't plan to sell your house. And I don't know. I mean, the thing is that they can, if they can indulge in speculation, they can always find a reason why they shouldn't be able to let you in. So it's very tough. But the irony, I mean, to bring this full circle, is that I know that some foreigners in Korea have had bad experiences with immigration, and I understand that, but compared to what I've been through with the British Embassy, my experience with the Korean authorities has just been really minimal. I've gone in, I've had my visa stamped, been no interviews, no interrogations, and I think the cost has probably been £20 or £30. I guess that's $60 US, and stay here. And maybe that says something about the way Westerners can be treated here as much as the way they aren't treated here. But compared to the treatment from my own country, it gives you a slightly different perspective on immigration in Korea versus immigration in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It brings more of the message that it's more of a worldwide thing. It's not really just Korea doing these things. And I'm one of those people who's had issues with immigration quite a bit, in the sense that routine stuff, I'm just one of those people that routine stuff always doesn't become routine, always has some type of kink. But I was always say I'd rather deal with the Korean immigration than deal with my own company's immigration. And that's just kind of funny, because I do have connection. My cousin is actually in the U.S. Diplomatic Corps. And I was just talking to him when I was visiting home. I said, well, my spouse and I would like to come visit to the U.S., but, we're worried about the visa process. And he says, well, I can write a letter, but we're not sure if that will do any good. It depends on the mood of the person doing it at that day. And he's actually inside the system.
Yeah, that's why my husband and I moved to Australia. It's just so ridiculous trying to move to the States. And he's also a British citizen. And so we thought about moving to England because he really loved England. But they were just like, no, you're a British citizen, but you haven't really lived in England enough to bring a spouse with you. But at least they were open about it before we paid any money. Because I'd have been pretty mad if it cost £500 to find that out.
Yeah.
Australia, on the other hand, was awesome. It was like basically the easy tax form version of an immigration paper. Pay one fee. The interview was, how bad does your hog one suck? Yeah, I used to work for
yeah.
It sucked too. The end. Went and picked up my visa paper a couple weeks later, and I had a really long time, like, it seems like it was 6 or 9 months that I could use it to enter the country for the first time. And unlike the States, I was free to travel in and out as much as I wanted. Because like the States, that's something I don't know if they really tell you either. Once you're in, you can't leave until you've reached like the next stage of the immigration process.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Mike, you would say you're not really your average English teaching foreigner in Korea.
Insofar as I don't actually teach English, that's
true.
True, yes.
What is it you do?
I'm a stock market trader.
The stock market? No. Why would you could just do that from anywhere?
I can just do that from anywhere, given an internet connection.
Maybe that was why the government was thinking you were not coming back. I don't know. I was wondering if that would have been a factor in it.
I don't think so. They weren't bothered about my job or anything like that. It really just was these other bizarre things, really.
I saw that you were at the Busan racetrack recently.
I was. The horses weren't there, but I was. It was a non-racing day, but we went there on the spur of the moment, so we just went to see what it was like. There were lots of local people betting on the horse races in Seoul, and watching it on the big screens and watching it inside the stands. It was, I don't know whether to say it was an alarming experience or not, but there were a lot of what looked like fairly hardcore gamblers down there.
Wow.
That seems kind of funny, going to the racetrack to watch a race happening at a different track.
No horses, but that doesn't deter the gamblers.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that, but I did wonder, actually. I mean, one of the things that constantly amazes me about Korea is just the number of retail outlets of all kinds here, because I just don't understand how society can sustain so much commerce. But the one thing that I don't recall ever really seeing here is a betting shop of any kind. And I just wondered whether perhaps there were laws limiting sports betting to particular places or to the racetracks or whatever, but I really don't know what the answer to that is.
They think they get around it. I know we have them in my area where I work. I work in in Daejeon, which is actually okay. We're near there's this whole government complex where all the government workers are for Korea, and there's this whole zone cordoned off. You can't have anything that Ajusis like to do on their time off in that area. And the edge of that area is Daejeon. So Daejeon is basically the Ajusi playground where all the government workers go to do things that Ajusis like to do, like, I don't know, wholesome things, like maybe betting on stuff, getting a stress relieving massage.
Stress relieving.
Those types of things. Those are all in my area down there, and but like I said, I do see I do see some things that do look like horse gambling places, some video horse gambling though. I'm not sure if it's like video game horse gambling. I've never been in one of those places. They kind of scare me.
And now the news and whatever is distracting us from our jobs.
I actually, this is kind of weird. I actually know someone in space right now.
Oh, right, you met her.
This is weird. It just occurred to me yesterday. It's like she's in space, and like I know her, and it's like that's spacey. So what? I mean, so Americans are called astronauts. Russians are called cosmonauts. What will Koreans be called?
Oh, I know what your answer is, so I'll just let you say it.
Well, no, that was from Carl.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, because they come from the KIST, so they would be called Kaistronauts.
Is that KIST, the university that's
Yeah,
here in
KIST.
Daejeon?
Yeah.
Kaistronauts. I don't know. Thank our writers for that one.
Thank you, Carl.
They're sort of on strike. We're not paying them enough of free.
Well, Carl sent me something too. I don't know if it's really considered hard news, but the fine people who brought us vagina wet tissues are trying to go international now.
Vagina. I still haven't seen the vagina wet.
Oh man, come on.
I haven't seen them either, but I think you should definitely get a picture of those for the podcast.
Well, we have it on the Soul Survivors podcast. That was one of the products of the week last summer.
I'll have to go dig through the archives and find it.
Yeah,
that was
vagina wet tissue.
That was right when I started listening to the podcast, and I was running while listening to that. And I bowled it, almost fell off the mountain when I heard that one.
Well, they've got their little blurb about how they're like ready to take on the world is because they have the vagina wet tissues and cucumber packs. And I was like, Oh,
I just got that. That. It takes me a while.
I was like, wow, because it already sounds like, KY tissues or something, How would you describe the wetness? Oh, it's vagina wet.
It's vagina wet.
But of course, their little, self-aggrandizing statement to the world has some slightly amusing grammatical errors. They're not as bad as some other places, but
vagina.
They have like issues with plural and grammar and stuff.
Oh, so it comes with many cucumbers.
Well, no, the tissues and the cucumber packs are a popular product.
Well, they should be a set.
Yeah. Set to.
So the big controversy this week on the foreigner blogs has been the Coreana Cosmetics video.
Skin whitener, I think is.
Is it a skin whitener?
It's a skin.
This is just
it's pause to associate with your skin whitening, but
the jokes just write themselves, don't they?
Yeah.
Does it have a hair bleach component to it as well, or something? Or?
Some blue contacts.
Oh, good grief!
Yeah.
So if anyone's been, I don't know, not paying attention to this, the big controversy this week has been Coreana is a cosmetics company. They spell their name with a C, Coreana, and they had this model dressed up in basically a very S&M kind of looking Nazi uniform.
Yeah, sort of SS wear.
Yeah, with a little Nazi insignia on the cap, and the voiceover said in Korean, even Hitler could not bring together East and West. Kind of not as bad as other things I've seen and heard of, but still not the most tasteful thing to put up these days.
Well, and who really wants to identify their product with Hitler?
Coreana.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I did my first month or so in Korea. I remember I was wearing, occasionally I wear my black trench coat to school, and I remember my boss coming up to me and says, "You really look good. You look like a Nazi soldier."
Oh man.
Oh.
I haven't worn that much lately.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when the Nazi bars first became popular and the German and Israeli embassies were like threatening boycotts, and people were like, what's the big deal? The uniforms just look cool.
Yeah, well, so did
Get over the past.
So did the the Japanese Imperial Army uniforms. They looked really cool too.
Yeah.
What I think is ironic is that they spell their name with this C, and we spell Korea with a C. And that's actually, that was like, I think the original Portuguese or Spanish spelling of Korea. And these days, nationalists use that spelling to protest because they say that it was Japan that changed it to a K so that Korea would always come after Japan alphabetically. So basically, using the letter C in anything related to Korea is kind of like anti-imperialist.
No, it's anti-Japanese.
European
imperialism is fine.
Even if they're partnered with the Japanese.
Yeah, whatever. Bygones.
So rather than change everything, they've been on this. Rather than just cut the ads as a loss, and just say, well, okay, let's just try to turn this around. They instead just try to half-assedly cover it up, change one line. They changed Hitler into nobody, could bring together East and West. They still keep the Nazi insignia on the woman's cap, and then they go after one of the bloggers for posting the ad up on YouTube. Yeah, so their reaction is really just to go after YouTube and try to get all the ads down with the old saying, but they still keep the same imagery. As in, I was like, what? Oh, I don't get it.
Because nobody's going to make the connection anymore.
I guess not. I guess not.
People will just be like, wow, she looks really cool in that cool-looking uniform that's vaguely familiar.
Because, so cool. I wonder if there was some color involved. Yeah, little plaids. So what about the class's new commercial?
Oh, yeah, Class A. I don't know if you saw the previous commercial for their Drum Up, where it
totally
basically had a...
Totally missed that.
Okay, well, they had this ad that started playing a month or so ago, where it's a bunch of women wearing really high heels doing laundry, and they're all complaining about their back hurting.
Mm-hmm.
And so their new product is the drum is tilted at an angle, so you don't have to bend over as far. But in the original ad, they had a split screen showing all these women bending over, and it looked like they were sniffing each other's butts. And so they've changed it, and now they're just squatting.
They're squatting. I had to check that one out. I had to find that one.
I couldn't find it on YouTube. I've been looking because it's hilarious. I was going to put it on my blog because it's so funny.
And gosh, I should watch out on eating my fried chicken this week with the bird flu break.
Yeah, bird flu. Apparently Koreans are not too worried about it.
But we're eating kimchi, that's why.
Right. Yeah, they've had an outbreak in Cholla Bukdo, but apparently it has not affected bird sales.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I guess, and see what's going on.
Good for the chicken farmers, I guess.
There was an outbreak 2 years ago as well? Was there not the same kind of area?
Yeah.
And that resulted in a pretty big cull-off.
Well, Southwest Korea, isn't that more of the rice bowl anyway of Korea, where a lot of the culture is?
Yeah, but the last kill-off was huge. Like, they had pictures in the paper of monstrous ditches that they had dug out and then just filled with birds. And I don't think those birds were necessarily dead when they were put into those ditches and covered back up. But that just could be some kind of evil propaganda I'm spreading. But they didn't really necessarily look dead to me in the photos. I'm just saying that maybe the farmers might have skipped a little step there in the burial process.
Okay.
But American chicken farmers do the same thing, so...
Yeah, well, we just prod our downed cattle and put them in school.
Yeah. Well, because baby male chicks are just thrown away as is.
Have you been? Now I know about there's this forest fire. Have they put that out yet?
I don't know.
Near Unjusa Temple in Jeollanam-do?
I don't know.
You haven't researched it at all, so you don't know where, like, how it got started. No one knows how it got started or anything like that.
Maybe Najashi was drunk and mad about something.
So you haven't heard anything about it?
No, sorry.
You're useless.
I know. I just now noticed it on the whatchamacallit.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I've been trying to keep up with it a little bit, but I haven't really had much chance to go into that. So I'm sure updates will be coming on later in the week, and I'm sure when we come out with the podcast, I'm sure the fire will be out by then. So. Be old news. But have you found anything out about the assaults? Last week, the rape attempt on that girl that was caught on tape?
Several people have been arrested. Like 3 men have been arrested in the past week for various assaults on young girls. That one and a couple of murders. So all of my students are all completely freaked out, and like we've had little classes on stranger danger and stuff like that.
What would you say this? I mean, is this just a coincidence, or are there copycats, or just the police getting off their butts and doing their job?
I think the police are just getting off their butts because some of these are not necessarily like brand new events. They've just finally caught the people.
Yeah, and I've noticed this. I've noticed a little more of an air. It's starting to feel a little more like it was when I left America. People are becoming a lot more paranoid.
Yeah.
They're starting to see bad people around every corner. More nervous about going out at night. Yeah, it's starting to feel a little more like home.
Yeah, but my little first grade students, they all walk to school by themselves still.
Yeah, ours do too. I ask them all the time. They still bike to school and walk to school. Yeah, still.
My middle school girls the other day were telling me that they come home from Gangnam by themselves at like 10 or 11 at night from Hagwon classes. So, and then like they have to get off the bus and walk, and they're like nobody even meets them at the bus stop or anything.
That's a little scary.
Yeah.
Well, it's now, but I'm sure. I think like 20 years ago we weren't like that, or 25 years ago. You know, back at home. It took a lot more publicity of these things happening, and then we became a very scared society.
I mean, that's a hard line to draw, though, the line between being well-informed and being terrorized by your own media and whatnot. Yeah,
because I think America really does a good job of sort of building up the terror factor in the news.
It sells.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to work for a local television station, and I mean it wasn't really intentional, but it was just sort of the rule. Like, you know, if you have good car accident video, that leads the newscast, because that hooks people in. It's the hard news. Then you put the little church social later on in the news. It was a small town.
Prepare to be offended. It's politics and society time.
Oh, elections! Well, elections have already happened, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was a fun week.
Yeah. God. Where can I go to get away from people screaming at me into their mics to vote?
Yeah, if I was Korean, or if I was able to run for assembly, I would just put up signs and say, "Vote for me. I won't wake you up in the morning."
Apparently, only 66 people have been booked on election violations.
Only 66 this year.
Is this a new record?
I don't know.
Arrested.
But I heard that they were like close to record levels of low voter turnout today.
Only 18 were arrested.
Only 18 were arrested.
Which is a big drop from the last National Assembly election that had 219 people detained in the same period, in the 3 days before the election.
Oh, and I saw a picture of two candidates fighting in Daegu.
Awesome.
Yeah. Korean politics.
That was the best a couple months ago when they had the parliament guys like choking each other and beating each other with umbrellas.
Who needs American gladiators? We got Korean politics.
I don't even miss the NHL.
Yeah. Did you see the thing about that guy in Gangnam, the rapper running for office?
No.
Yeah.
David was interesting.
Some little DJ guy, and he's pretty cool. He doesn't seriously think he was. I don't even know if he got elected yet, but he's kind of like, he was talking about how he was not protesting, but he was doing something in front of the National Assembly building, and one of the old politicians kind of said, "You're young. What do you know? You're not dignified enough to be in politics." And the guy looks and just says, like, "Well, look at you guys beating yourselves up all the time. Who are you calling dignified?"
Yeah.
He's got a point, man.
Yeah. That's like, so what? I mean, who are the real children there?
Well, good for him for calling him on it, man.
Yeah. Oh, really? And that was only. By the way, yeah. Significant other asked me not to mention her name anymore on the podcast. She might sue me for libel. It's a popular thing to do, is to sue me for libel. Yeah, she mentioned that she didn't vote. And but because she just says the same old, it's the same. She says the same. It's the same with the police. They don't do anything. They're pretty useless, and the politicians are just, it's all a racket. So she says, why vote for another criminal into the office? But then I talked to her about this guy. She said, yeah, she heard about him. She really was excited. She wished she could have voted for him. That would have brought her out into the voting booths if that guy was in our district. Yeah, he's in Gangnam. We're not in Gangnam.
Oh, yeah.
We're out in the burbs. And what about when the Olympic torch comes to Korea? There are already protests going on in San Francisco. There's all the way through Australia there are protests, and I heard they're planning on some in Korea.
Well, it would be a good opportunity for the kids in military service to get out and get active.
Sharpen their billy clubs.
The protesters. Yeah.
I'm just curious. I mean, I think there are some protests being planned. I'm curious which stuff would be protested. Would it be like the Jumong controversy, or actually? Yeah, likely. I'm scared it's going to be something to do with some ancient map.
God.
The rest of the world is talking about human rights abuses in Tibet. And
Koreans have signs that say "I love Dokdo."
Yeah, well, that was Japan, but still, they would still do that. They would protest the torch for Dokdo.
Or the East Sea.
The East Sea.
Who cares about Sudan? Who cares about human rights in China?
I'm sure there'll be a few of them. I remember when I was here before the startup of the invasion into Iraq, and it was just this huge plethora of everything at the rally. It was unbelievable, and it seems to be, I don't know, like Saturday afternoon out with the family or something. There seems to be everybody there with every cause under the sun.
Yeah.
I always think that's kind of funny. Oh, they're having a rally. What's our cause? What should we go protest?
Together,
okay, let's go.
Try to get and form coalitions. Well, that's the thing, is that people try to find a common cause. They form coalitions. Then when they get on the site, they start doing their own cause again. That always happens. I used to work in politics. That stuff happens. It's it's herding cats, that whole thing. Yeah, I also heard we were talking last week about they're planning on building some islands in the Han River.
Yeah.
And now it's coming around that the designs were plagiarized, possibly.
I will totally laugh if the design is like the Korean Peninsula. like totally ripped by.
Someone's just saying that the islands were ripped off from another designer. Yeah.
I can't believe that would happen in Korea.
Yeah, it's like, boy, here we go again.
Intellectual property is sacred in Korea. There were 2 editorials in the paper yesterday with opposing views. One of them was called "Gender Balance Needed in Teaching." And now that sounds like, we should have, equal numbers of teachers. But the whole article is how male teachers are so much more important than female teachers that they need to get hiring preference.
Okay. Oh, stop. How are they much more important?
Because they can help at sports meets and camping, and when there's violence at school. So for the field day, And for those ridiculous camping trips that the students have to go on for no apparent reason other than to torture students and teachers. And then when there's fights. So men need to get preferential hiring treatment. Because, if you stroll around a Korean school, it's so hard to find a man. When I used to teach in Cheonju at the elementary schools, I swear to God, some of them had 2 female teachers. And it was all just ajishis.
Ajishis, carrying sticks.
Yep.
In an elementary school, even.
Yeah, this is all elementary schools that I would teach at.
Oh my
The ones here, they tend to be a lot of women in the elementary schools, but then the gender balance flips for middle school and high school.
Huh. Yeah, I can see that. I think that's sort of true in the U.S. too.
Really? Not where I live.
Oh, really?
Because the pay is so low in Louisiana that, no man could support a family by being a teacher.
Oh. Okay. Well, I went to an all-boys school, and I think that kind of counted.
Oh, okay.
Get out your alien registration card and take a number. It's time to talk about immigration.
Well, speaking back on immigration with visas, I've read that they actually have a timetable that they're actually saying that it's very possible that Koreans can visit the U.S. for 3 months without a visa starting in December this year.
Yeah, wasn't that because of the free trade agreement, which Congress is this free trade agreement's bogus. But hey, we'll still give you this visa waiver.
I think that was sort of discussed, but I was following that. I thought it was a really separate issue from the whole FTA.
Okay.
I really think so. I don't know, but one of the Marmots guys got all bunched up about it because the FTA is kind of dying in Congress. And
it's just so funny after all the protesting in here, and then the States is yeah, screw them.
Yeah, well, because the States is in a current anti-free trade mode right now because of the NAFTA backlash. And so they're not really eager to sign up more NAFTAs, more versions of NAFTA. So I don't know. He was going off and saying basically that, I really think there's such separate issues.
Yeah.
Immigration versus free trade. And I just really think, we're going to punish your average Korean wanting to visit the U.S. because, we can't, because some beef bill or car bill didn't go through.
No, the whole thing with the visas with Koreans is because of the large percentage of Koreans that disappear while on vacation.
Well, that's true, but that has nothing to do with free trade agreements.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. It was just, I think, sort of politically,
Yeah.
And we want to visit freely.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, this is like what Mike was talking about. I really would like, even after, even with my marriage, I still have to go through all this crap just to visit for a week. And really, let's just get rid of that. Just not attach it to some type of political agreement, some type of trade agreement. Just get rid of that. That's just not part of the trade agreements.
If businesses and companies can move so freely across borders, there's no good reason why humans shouldn't be able.
Well, that's true. That's why okay. Now you give me a political argument and saying, why should capital move freely and labor not move freely? But that's not been solved from that either.
But
that's not even what the visa is for. The visa is a tourist visa waiver. Yeah.
But my point is that it's not a true free economy if only capital is allowed to move over borders and labor is not. But, that's just my feeling.
Or in the case of Korea, it's allowed to flow in freely.
But so it's so funny that the little, perceptions of people, because there was one editorial from an English teacher this week saying that Korea's is too anti-immigrant in their policies, and the news media and the newspapers, they're saying they're way too anti-immigrant. And then on the other hand, you have the Korean newspaper Free Zone News saying Korea is not anti-immigrant enough. The media is too soft on foreigners.
I think they should just follow each of us around with a camera, like paparazzi, and try to catch us doing anything that, in any way might upset anyone for any reason.
Little Truman Show.
It'd be kind of funny because then they just kind of kick us out of the country because we're just too boring.
Yeah, they'd get the sad truth of all the stuff they think we're doing. Not.
Really, everybody's just sitting and refreshing the marmot's hole, waiting for new news.
Yeah, waiting for news.
Yeah.
They're waiting. Oh, man, who can I trash on Dave's today?
Right.
It's like my thing in the morning is like, I like to see how much my plants have grown today. And my herbs, yeah, but not the types of herbs they're interested in.
Right. Oh, it really is oregano.
It really is. How did you know I planted oregano? God, you're psychic.
Oh, you know what made the front page of the international part of the International Herald this morning? How former President Roe has become a tourist attraction.
Tell me about that.
And how up to 20,000 people on Sundays and thousands every other day of the week go to stand outside of his house.
For what?
And to get a glimpse of him.
And
when he comes out, then they shout, "Can your wife come out too?"
What?
Yeah, seriously.
A friend of mine here actually was on a trip, and it sounded like they might have been a Korean class or something. But he's got video up on his Facebook page of the former president riding a bicycle out to meet them and having a little chat with them and everything else. It's just weird.
That's cute.
Yeah, they said like whenever he takes a walk, there's like crowds of people following him, taking pictures, whatever. And then when he's like in his house, they just shout for him to come out and say hi. Maybe you should not have moved to a town of 120. Or maybe you should have put up, a bigger wall around your house.
Or maybe more of a security. I mean, he does have a security detail, doesn't he?
Yeah, but if there's 20,000 people... how many people is he going to have in his security detail?
God, and Brittany thought she had problems.
Yeah. I saw one picture, and I'll see if I can find it. I can't find it right now. It was really funny. It was President. He had some food on his chopsticks, and there was a guy holding a baby, and it's 4 pictures. And he shows that he's bringing it closer to the baby. The baby's opening his mouth, and then he pulls it away and eats it. You can just see the look of indignation on that baby's face. It's classic.
And that made news.
It was some newspaper had it. I think it was just some photos, just like for amusement.
And now, the odds and ends that refuse to fit into any category.
I heard Turtle Man died. Yeah.
Yeah, my students are all busted up about it too. Died of a heart attack, but they assured me that he was old.
He was 38.
He was 38, and they were all like, I heard it was his heart, but it must have been because he was so fat.
He was, he was
heavy by Korean standards, but he was nowhere near like good old boy standards.
He wasn't fat boy's fat. For people that don't know, Turtle Man was a rapper.
Yeah.
He was no Biggie Smalls or anything, but he was, this is okay. He looked pretty okay, and he rapped with these 2 women.
Of course.
Yeah.
His entourage.
His entourage. How big was he?
Not big. I would say maybe 200 pounds.
No. I mean fame-wise. How big was he?
Sorry. Fame-wise? Well, I think just the Piangi was the one big hit.
Oh, Piangi. And that was a few years ago.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything from him for a while. Not that I'm like all up on my K-pop or anything.
Yeah, I would have gotten that. Well, did you read this? That Korean is the 22nd most spoken language in the world.
What shocked me was that there are fewer Italian speakers than Korean speakers.
Yeah, isn't that cool? But there are quite a few.
Like first language speakers?
As in just, people who speak it as a first language. I'm pretty sure that's what it was about.
Yeah, it almost had to have been. Because how can you really, correctly count language learners.
But this is kind of funny. It's like Korean beat out Italian, Thai, Cantonese, Polish, but it was beaten out by Javanese, Vietnamese, Urdu,
all the big ones.
Telugu.
I can imagine would have quite a few, though.
Yeah, Urdu, yeah. Wu, it's a Chinese dialect.
Yeah, I would have thought Cantonese would have had more.
Yeah.
It's a Chinese dialect, too.
Malay is really big up there. It's number 9. And yeah, French is farther down than I thought it would be. Japanese is slightly more than German. But the big one right now, yeah, the number 1 was Mandarin. English came in second, followed by Hindi, Spanish, Arabic, Russian, Portuguese. So, it's kind of funny. Yeah, Korean's getting pretty up there, it looked like. Beating Italian.
Pretty soon it'll be offered in schools in America.
Yeah, could be. So did you see, now this came out a while back. Did you guys, I sent you those pictures from the German designer, Young Lee.
Oh, yeah, I really liked those.
Yeah.
I like them too.
Yeah, the designer is, I think she's Chinese-German. She came out with this exhibit last year or so, and it's the differences between, literally it was differences between German and Chinese culture, but people have been putting on their blogs as the difference between Eastern and Western cultures, basically.
It looks pretty apt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like the punctuality.
Like
Western on the dot.
And
Eastern, 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's a 20-minute range.
The cue.
Anger, if someone's showing anger, if someone is angry in the West, they're frowning. If someone's angry in the East, they're smiling.
I liked the handling of problems, too.
The handling of problems was the Westerner goes straight to the problem, and the Eastern is to walk around it somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them I didn't really totally get, though. I don't know. I didn't totally... Well, I don't know. Oh, the queuing, of course, is really classic, yeah. Standing in line. The Westerners all basically standing in one line, and the Eastern is all grouped up around... That's how I got on the bus just a while ago. The party. That was an interesting one. Party, the Westerners are all in tiny little clumps, and in the Eastern, all in one big circle.
But I would say that's really a good depiction of what I've seen. When there's student MTs on campus and whatnot, they're always in this one great big circle of 35 people. Or you go to dinner, everybody's circled around one big long table.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe I've just... shows you how little social life I have. I've really not...
Obviously, if you're having, if you're meeting at somebody's house and they've got like a typical Korean place, it's not possible to really do that. You've got to be in little groups. But when there's the possibility, like dinner, instead of having like 3 or 4 tables with 4 or 6 people at each table, they'll just have like one monstrously huge table.
And some of them seemed okay. Well, traveling I agreed with. Yeah, the Westerner goes to see things, and the Easterner goes to take pictures. Everything's a photo opportunity.
Yeah,
where you spend 20 minutes to take one picture, which was oh goodness. I just got to learn. Don't when I like this weekend going off to the sauna. Just don't hand my camera off to people. Take the pictures myself, because I'm just frozen in a pose for 20 minutes while they're trying to just take the picture. It doesn't matter. It's a digital camera. Take many pictures. You don't have to get that perfect picture. Just take a lot of them. We'll pick the best one out of the bunch. Just take the picture. One thing I didn't get, I think that was more German. One that I think was more German versus Chinese was the 3 meals a day. I think it was implying in Germany that breakfast and lunch are cold and lunch is hot.
That's how it was when I lived there. We had like cereal for breakfast and then a huge hot meal for lunch, and then dinner was like cold cuts and cheese on bread. Yeah, that's very German. And I lived in Germany, but I didn't really do the cold dinner too much. But it is true, yeah. In Korea, well, I wouldn't say this. I don't know. Would you say in Korea all 3 meals are hot? Pretty much. There's going to be like soup or something.
Rice. I'm just trying to think of how we do it here. I mean, the only hot thing you can kind of say is rice, and then we get all this other stuff, banchan, out of the refrigerator. But by the time you put the banchan on the rice, it's kind of gotten cold by then. That's my thought.
You're taking your rice out too early.
Yeah.
Set the table first, and then you get your rice.
When I lived with a Korean family, the last thing to go on the table was always the rice.
Well, that's kind of what we do too, but I think it's just breakfast. It's more of a matter of let's get we get the rice and then pulling all the crap out of the refrigerator, and you're just always eating what's in the refrigerator. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it is sort of cold because you're getting stuff out. You're not heating anything up except the rice. You're getting a bunch of just stuff out of the refrigerator.
So not even some like 콩나물국 or anything like that.
Too lazy.
See, that's just it.
Oh gosh. Oh, kids doing the craziest things lately. Oh goodness, I'm not sure if I should really say this because I'm sure we might get in trouble.
You want to say it.
We might get in trouble for it. Okay, we had one test this week.
Oh, was that your test that you put?
No. That's okay. One different. Okay. We had one test this week, and the answer was supposed to be. The toy moved under my bed, so I screamed. But they were really hasty, so they said, my toy moved under my bed, so I creamed. They're like, what kind of toy was that?
Oh, dear.
Oh, boy. And then, one of them, one of the bloggers, it's Korea Now, put up a spelling test. Backpack spelled correctly. Eraser, sick, happy. Listen, LISEN. And then number 6, CUNT.
Yeah, I don't even know what they were going for with that.
I don't know. Maybe can't.
I think it was count. I think I looked it up.
Maybe count. Oh, the joys. Did you come across anything, Jennifer?
One of my students today wrote a sentence. Okay, they were supposed to use some vocabulary. When we read a story, they get some vocabulary, and they're supposed to use it in a sentence. One of them did not even use the word, and I don't even know what he was going for, but his sentence was, white people don't like black people.
Yeah, I come across that a few bit, and I'm so like caught off guard so much, I don't respond quickly enough, so it's already passed.
Yeah.
Yesterday, one of the kids, he's just belligerent. He's just a rude kid. And he's one of those kids, he just can't stop talking. He doesn't know he's making noise all the time. He just keeps talking. And it's always in English, but it's always just blah, 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 just talking. He just says to one kid, and they're in some type of name-calling fight. And he comes back and says, you're a black person. Did he just say that?
Wow.
No, like, where did they learn that stuff is what I want to know.
I don't know. Gotta learn it somehow.
Obviously, maybe they read those comics.
One of my friends' daughters, she's like 8 years old. She has a quote boyfriend, and their first date was this past weekend, and it was a play date. He was over at the house, and the father was on the computer, and they're playing, and he touches on the corner of the eye of the boy because it smacks her on the butt. Like, where did the boy must have an uncle.
Yeah, or something. But let's hope he didn't learn it from his dad.
Yeah. So, I guess that's our show.
All right.
Yay! Okay. Yay! It's been really fun. We've had Kim Hogg from Socius and Daejeon, and Mike Moriarty from BusanMike. Jennifer, do you have any plugs this week?
Oh, well, I was just going to sort of wrap up the Seoul conference.
Talk about that.
Okay, it went really well. We had Mario Rinverlukrian from the UK, and he's a popular activities textbook writer, and so a lot of people came out to see him. And we also had quite a few people show up for the research workshops, which we did. So it was a good day. I was reelected as first vice president of the Seoul chapter, but I was running unopposed, so it wasn't really...
Because no one else wants to job.
Yeah, basically. Our next meeting will be April 19th.
April 19th?
I have forgotten what the topic is.
Oh, my plugs. Well, of course, I'm writing for Expat Living on the Korea Herald. and Seoul Magazine. Oh, something new that just popped up today. I'm going to talk tomorrow. I possibly am going to do this. I might be on Arirang Radio once a week.
Ooh.
Singing.
I didn't even know you could sing.
I guess I can.
Can it give us a little something as a advanced temptation to go and check it out?
Hell no. We'll see. If it is, I'll be on. It's on. It should be on. I think 10:30 to 11 or 10 to 10:30. Oh, I already forgot what time. Yeah, I don't know.
Friday plug.
Friday. I know it's a great plug. Friday night. I think it's 10:30 to 11. I think it's going to be weekly. I'll be teaching Koreans about. We'll be doing like a thing where we get a song each week and we discuss the song and then I sing lyrics from the song. And it's kind of like just English through pop music.
Okay. We'll be doing that.
Kim, got anything to plug?
Just come on over and check out Socius, and that's socius.or.kr. Check us out and get involved.
Any events coming up?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything in particular. The Cherry Blossom Festivals were this weekend, so that was kind of the big
past
thing.
Weekend?
Yeah, this past weekend.
Okay.
So they're kind of past their peak, and the rain today is taking everything off the trees that hasn't been peaked out. So
yeah, we had that rain. Mike, you got anything to plug?
I'm afraid I haven't. No, nothing to plug, nothing to sell, but come down to Busan. It's not so bad. There is life outside Seoul.
Yeah. So next week, well, thank you. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mike and Kim, for showing up today. That was pretty good.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks
pretty
for having
good. Oh, feel free to come back too.
Yeah, Mike, but next time you really can't talk as much.
I'll try not to talk as much
now. Next week, we're going to have Michael Hurt, Mr. Metropolitan himself, Mr. Feet Soul, Mr. Bomb English, Mr. King of all
media in Seoul.
Yes. Reconfirmed today. I think when we get together, we're going to start talking about our Wiis. So, Jennifer, I'm sure you could just take a break for a while, and we're just going to talk geek talk for a while.
Okay, that's cool.
So, until then, come check us out at, if you want to write us, we're at sejong@seoulpodcast.com. That's SEJONG at seoulpodcast.com. Also, check us out, my blog, zenkimchi.com, and Jennifer's blog, where it's called Jennifer Teaches. Jennifer Teacher. What's the address to that blog?
JenniferTeacher.blogspot.com.
Okay,
but
Jennifer Teacher.
It's not that exciting. Kimchi is much better for your blog time.
So, until next week, see ya!
All right, bye.
The Seoul Podcast is a production of Seoul Podcast Productions, copyright 2008, under the Creative Commons license. Parts of this podcast may be used for non-commercial purposes if you remember to give us credit. You can contact us at sejong@seoulpodcast.com. That's SEJONG @seoulpodcast.com. For a transcript of this episode, listen to it again and write down what you hear. See you next week. Until then, may your soju be strong enough to make her look attractive.